Breaking news here on Dolphins Today. Edge rusher Shaq Barrett has retired from the NFL. Yes, you are hearing that correctly. The news shocked us all here on a Saturday afternoon, but a Dolphins edge rusher and a presumed key piece of this Dolphins defense will not be playing football for the Miami Dolphins this year. This is Dolphins Today. I am Nick Roloff. Make sure you are subscribed because we will update you on every single piece of Dolphins news, no matter what I'm doing. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a little sweaty. I was in the middle of a run. Humble brag on the shoulder for me. Had to come back and make a video for y'all. So that's why you guys got to be subscribed. But we have a lot to talk about with Shaq Barrett because this is really impactful towards this Dolphins team as veterans are expected to report to training camp just in 3 days on July 23rd. But he announced it on Instagram, and this is exactly what he said, if you were curious. He said, "It's time for me to hang it up. It's been a great ride, and I appreciate everything that came with it over the years. I'm ready to shift my full focus to my wife and kids and helping them realize their dreams and catch them. Anyone who caught their dreams before know the work, time, and consistency required to reach them. I'm ready to start building them skills up in my kids, which will take 100% commitment. I know to some it will be a surprise, but I've been thinking about this for a while, and the decision has never been more clear than it is now." So best of luck to Shaq Barrett and the rest of his future endeavors, but it's time to talk some Dolphins football here because he was signed to a 1-year, $7 million deal, and he was expected to be the third pass rusher for this team in rotation behind Jaylen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. And then obviously Miami drafted 2 rookies at that edge position during the NFL draft in the first round out of Penn State with Chop Robinson, and then in the 5th round with Mohamed Kamara out of Colorado State. And now, when you look at the season being 6 weeks away, basically, and September 8th is just around the corner when the Dolphins face the Jaguars, they now need to sign another edge in free agency. That is abundantly clear if you're asking me. So you might be asking yourself, who's the best free agent available? Well, there's actually some decent names still out there that aren't going to be the best, but it is what it is for considering it's damn near almost August when you're looking at the free agency market. The top 5 names, in my opinion, are former Miami Dolphin Emmanuel Ogbah, and he has expressed not a lot of interest in returning to Miami considering it's a different scheme fit and he wants to play in a different scheme than Miami has had over the past couple of years, but you never know. Lawson, Yannick Ngakoue, Rasheem Green, and maybe Shaq Lawson, Tyus Bowser, Charles Harris. We'll talk more in depth here in just a second, but let me know down in the comment section what your one-word reaction was to Shaq Barrett retiring. I guess I was shocked. He said he's been thinking about it for a while now, but there was never any indication from an NFL insider, a beat reporter. For example, with Darren Waller retired from the Giants, and everyone kind of knew that was happening. It was just a matter of when he was going to officially announce it. No one knew this was coming for the Dolphins or Shaq Barrett. So now, with under a week until training camp starts and the first practice is the 24th on Wednesday, are they going to add another player to this edge group? They have to because Jaylen Phillips is on the PUP list. Cameron Good is on the PUP list. Bradley Chubb is on the PUP list. Now they could come off at any time, but at least to begin training camp and practices, they won't be working in with the team, and they're just kind of trying to work back. Jaylen Phillips coming from a torn Achilles. Bradley Chubb coming from a significant knee injury. And sure, it's kind of expected, and I'd say it's 75% chance that they're going to be available for week 1 against the Jags, but it's not a guarantee. And even if they are ready to go against Jacksonville week 1, that is not going to mean they're going to be 100%, and they're not going to be ready to give you the full production that you'd expect out of those 2 guys. So a third person must be added to this room. And we've talked a lot about how the biggest need on this team is Greg Van Roten at right guard, but to me it is now they're getting some edge depth because I like Chop. I like Mo. I think they're going to be fantastic as rookies for the Dolphins. But you just simply can't expect 2 rooks to go out there and be your 3rd or 4th edge rusher, arguably maybe getting the same amount of snaps as Jaylen Phillips and Bradley Chubb because of their recovery and their injuries, and expect to go get an effective pass rush off, especially when you're going to need it against Trevor Lawrence in week 1 and then Josh Allen week 2. We have talked about in depth about how difficult the schedule is for Miami down the stretch of the year in November and December and early January. And if this team wants to win the AFC East and get home field advantage in the postseason, and that's their aspirations, that's my expectations, they have to get off to a hot start because their schedule in the first 8 weeks is incredibly easier than their last 9 games. So they need to get off to a hot start, and that includes maybe arguably 2 straight wins against the Jags and then at home against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football. So to me, there needs to be an addition to this edge room. And now let's transition the conversation into who I think it should be. We went through the top 5 names, in my opinion. I named 5 or 6. I think there's no doubt who number 1 is, in my opinion, and it's Yannick Ngakoue, who has been all over the place in his career in the NFL. He played last season with Chicago. He started with Jacksonville, then went to Baltimore, then was with Indianapolis. He's just been all over the place, but he's been productive in his entire career. Last season with the Bears was the first time in his 7-year career that he did not account for 8 sacks. You are not hearing that incorrectly. He started his first 6-7 seasons in the NFL having 8 sacks a year. Straight out of the college, he just was dominant in the NFL. Consistent, stayed on the field. But last year in Chicago was a little bit of a different story. Now he is 29 years old. Is he declining? Possibly. But he also was seeing coverages from the opposing offensive lines that he was not used to seeing because he's always been a 2A, 2B type edge rusher, never the top guy on his own team. And I think possibly because Chicago had absolutely no one else to help him rush the passer until they traded for Montez Sweat at the trade deadline. I think that's the reason why he had such a down year. And I think if he was back to a role that did not require a ton of attention from the opposing offensive line, where he would just come in for fresh legs, replacing Bradley Chubb, Jaylen Phillips, or maybe in some packages being alongside Jaylen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, he would be even more effective and maybe return to giving you 7-8 sacks again like he's done in his entire career. And it's not like he did absolutely nothing last year as he failed to get the 8 sacks. He still had 4.5. It's not like he was atrocious, just not what Chicago signed up for when they signed him late in the offseason to be their number 1 edge rusher. And I don't know what he would cost as we are getting closer and closer to training camp. But with a clear need and a clear role on this Dolphins defense with Shaq Barrett retiring, I could see a marriage happening between Yannick Ngakoue pretty dang soon. And that's what my vote would be here at Dolphins Today on what Chris Greer should do. So let me know your thoughts on that. Would you sign Yannick Ngakoue to the Dolphins, likely just a 1-year deal, close to the same money they were prepared to give Shaq Barrett? Let me know Y for yes or N for no. I think a couple other options could be Carl Lawson, PFF, and Pro Football Network. Those 2 separate publications both have linked Carl Lawson to Miami in the past as a possible fit. Lawson was very productive early in his career with Cincinnati, and then had a torn Achilles a couple seasons ago, had a really good year coming off his Achilles injury, having 7.5, 8 sacks, and then basically could not stay on the field last season for New York. I would be open to bringing Carl Lawson back. I think Emmanuel Ogbah and that ship has kind of sailed, if I'm going to be honest, and I'm fine with that. I would probably target Yannick and Carl 1-2. Tyus Bowser from Baltimore is interesting. 29-year-old, same age as Yannick Ngakoue. Could see that being a fit for Miami, considering obviously the new defensive coordinator for the Dolphins is Anthony Weaver, as he's replacing Vic Fangio. Bowser worked on the defensive line with Anthony Weaver. He was the defensive line coach in Baltimore. I could see Weaver maybe pitching for his own player that he used to coach back in Baltimore. So Tyus Bowser seems like a possible fit. But the good news is that the Dolphins have flexibility cap-wise, right? And we've often talked about how it's kind of shocking and surprising that Miami still has $16 million cap space for this upcoming season, just due to the fact that they were cap-strapped back in free agency, and it's the reason why they couldn't keep a couple key guys like Robert Hunt and Christian Wilkins. But now with the post-June 1st one designation, some other moves, they have $16 million in cap space. So they have more than enough money to go out there and sign an edge rusher, and we've talked about how we knew Miami was going to carry at least $8 million or more going into training camp because of an injury possibility and a replacement. Well, here's the reason why you keep that money, folks. Shaq Barrett retires unexpectedly. Well, guess what? We still have $16 million to go out and spend on an edge rusher in free agency. think that's what the move is. I wouldn't be shocked that in the next 5 days, Miami signs someone. I really wouldn't. So make sure you are subscribed, because if the Dolphins do sign an edge rusher, we will have you covered. And if they have any other news, we will make sure you're covered as well. That's why you're subscribed here at Dolphins Today. I'll see you with another video tomorrow. Go Fins. Shocked that Shaq Barrett retired, but hopefully they go out and replace him soon.